Donald,
Right.
it was a movie. It's not like this in real life. But how would you know?
What comes to mind when you think of Harrison Ford? The fearless Indiana Jones, the reckless Han Solo, or the authoritarian president in Air Force One? But behind the scenes, Ford is more than just a cinematic icon. He's a powerful voice who separates fiction from reality, speaks out for democracy, and is unafraid to confront controversial changes in the entertainment industry. Discover how Harrison Ford used his influence to clarify the lines between film and real life, advocate for core social values, and question the film industry's evolution. Movies have a magical power. They make you believe that a man like Harrison Ford can both defeat his enemies with a whip in Indiana Jones and be a brave president who chases terrorists off a plane in Air Force One with the classic line, "Get off my plane." But Ford bluntly reminded Donald Trump, "Donald, it's just a movie." When Trump expressed admiration for Ford standing up for America on screen, Ford responded with a sobering, "That's not real life." How would you know? This was not just a reminder but a sharp criticism. As a star with millions of fans and influence far beyond the silver screen, Ford is not afraid to use his position to draw the line between fiction and reality, especially when facing a powerful figure like Trump. He understands that cinema can shape perceptions and even manipulate thoughts if not placed in the right place. Trump is not the first to make this mistake. During the 2016 campaign, he compared himself to movie heroes, such as John Wayne, to build his image as a tough guy. Ford, with the experience and sobriety of a veteran artist, used his reputation to warn the public, movies are movies, and life is life. In an age where social media blurs the lines between reality and fantasy, Ford is more than just an actor. He is a cultural gatekeeper, laying the groundwork for the larger messages he continues to convey, from defending democratic values to reflecting on the contradictions and innovation in the film industry.
Look, I've been voting for 64 years. Never really wanted to talk about it very much, but when dozens of former members of the Trump administration are sounding alarms, saying, "For God's sake, don't do this again," you have to pay attention. They're telling us something important. These aren't soft people.
Harrison Ford, with 64 years of electoral experience, is not the type to open his mouth about politics just to get attention. When he does, it is with a sharp knife, cutting straight into the chaotic reality of American politics. In a rare statement, Ford publicly endorsed Kamala Harris, while also taking a direct shot at Donald Trump. "Harris will defend your right to disagree. Trump demands blind loyalty and revenge." This is not a sentimental statement. It is the conclusion of someone who has seen America through many upheavals, from the Vietnam War and the oil crisis to today's polarizing political debates. Ford does not stop at a warning. He points directly to a terrifying reality: a series of former members of the Trump administration, from generals like John Kelly, the former White House chief of staff, to governors who were once loyal to the Republican Party, have publicly turned their backs, shouting, "Don't let this happen again." These people are not soft. They are the backbone of the system, once betting their careers on Trump, but now they are choosing to speak out because they are concerned about the future of the country. From an objective perspective, Ford does not just use his reputation to persuade. He asks a tough question: is a leader who demands absolute loyalty, ready to take revenge as Trump declared during the 2020 election campaign, worthy of the democratic spirit that America has built over centuries? Trump once said at an event in Iowa in 2023, "If I tell them to do something, they have to do it, or they will be punished." Ford, with the intuition of someone who has played the president on screen.
I'm Harrison Ford. I've got one vote, same as anyone else, and I'm going to use it to move forward. I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Instead, he praised Harris for her ability to defend the right to debate, a core democratic value that he said America needed to move forward. But on a deeper level, is Ford entirely objective? Some have suggested that he, like many other Hollywood stars, may be reflecting the concerns of the intellectual class about the direction of the country, rather than truly representing the entire electorate. But there is no denying that he has turned his influence into a sharp weapon. More broadly, Ford's voice is not just a wake-up call for voters, it is a challenge to civic responsibility in a polarized age. As American politics becomes suffocated by divisions, with debates turning into personal battles, Ford reminds us that voting is not just a right, it is a responsibility. He didn't just vote for Harris. He voted for an idea, an America where disagreement leads not to hostility, but to dialogue. Are we ready to listen to that call? Or are we just going to continue to be drawn into the cycle of division? Ford, with all his wisdom, chose to stand up, not as a celebrity, but as a citizen who dares to face the truth.
I'm not saying don't go to the movie. Because in the movie, there's a dog.
There is a dog.
But when I shot that scene,
No
dog.
No dog.
I said,
Have you seen the reviews?
where's the dog?
In an interview on Jimmy Kimmel's show, Harrison Ford cleverly poked fun at Donald Trump with a story related to the movie The Call of the Wild. When Ford talked about filming a scene with a dog, the central character of the work, but there was no dog on set, only added by CGI. He humorously led the story. I said, "Where's the dog?" They said, "Here, in your head." Ford then deliberately steered the story to a phrase that Trump has used in politics, the call of the wild. That call was perfect. Donald J. Trump. That was a perfect call. Jimmy Kimmel laughed and replied, "I call that a perfect call." The satire here is more than just an entertaining joke, it's a sharp jab at Trump, both clever and subtle, reflecting the intersection of cinema, culture, and politics in Ford's use of his voice. Ford's reference to the phrase perfect call is no coincidence. It's a direct reference to the 2019 political scandal when Trump used the phrase to describe a phone call between him and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a call that led to an impeachment inquiry into Trump for allegedly pressuring Ukraine to investigate his political rival, Joe Biden. Trump has publicly declared that it was a perfect call, with nothing wrong, despite critics and political opponents arguing that it was a serious abuse of power.
And
There
they
it is
said,
right there.
here. In your head.
The call of the wild.
That's
That call was perfect. Donald J. Trump.
Yeah,
This
it
was
was
a
a
perfect
perfect
call.
call.
I call it a perfect call.
Ford, by weaving the phrase into a cinematic trope, a dog that doesn't exist, but only in your head, turns Trump's words into a joke. The unreal dog in the film is similar to the perfect call that Trump boasts about. It is just an illusion, a story made up to fool others. Ford's satire is not only funny but also sharp because it hits at the lack of transparency and the pompousness in the way Trump builds his image, something Ford had criticized in previous paragraphs when reminding Trump that movies are not real life. Ford's satire is deployed on two levels of meaning. First, he uses the context of cinema, a field in which he is a master, to create a humorous contrast. The dog in The Call of the Wild is just a product of technology, does not exist, but is still called perfect in the context of the film. Second, he deliberately links this to Trump's perfect call phrase, implying that what Trump calls perfect is also just an illusion, a story made up to serve his purposes. Jimmy Kimmel, by responding "I call it a perfect call," completed the satire circle, turning it into a humorous yet meaningful juggling act. The effectiveness of this satire lies in the fact that it not only makes people laugh, but also makes the audience ponder, is Trump's rhetoric truly believable, or is it just a dog in the head, an illusion that is not real? Ford's satire is more than a joke, it reflects a larger reality about how art and politics intersect in our time, in a society where media and popular culture have the power to shape public perception. People like Ford, with their vast influence, have the ability to use their voices to expose lies. But this also raises the question, does satire change the minds of Trump supporters, or is it just a passing laugh in the Jimmy Kimmel crowd? On the one hand, it reinforces the views of those who are already skeptical of Trump, helping them see more clearly the inauthenticity of his image building. On the other hand, for Trump supporters, it can be seen as an unfair attack from the Hollywood elite, an argument Trump himself often uses to counter criticism from the entertainment industry. Statistics from the Pew Research Center in 2020 showed that about 70% of Republican voters still had confidence in Trump despite scandals like the perfect call incident, which shows that Ford's satire, while sharp, may only affect a small portion of the audience without changing the big picture. Harrison Ford is a bridge between art, politics, and society. We see him as more than just an actor or a citizen. He is a cultural figure with the ability to open up profound conversations about reality, democracy, and the evolution of cinema. What Ford did, from warning about the confusion between fiction and reality, defending democratic values, to reflecting on the conflict between tradition and innovation, was not limited to individual words or actions. They form a larger picture, a consistent message about the responsibility of each individual in shaping the future. So, in a world that is constantly changing, what lessons does Ford leave us with about how art and individual voices can impact society? His journey is not only a testament to the power of art, but also a reminder of the role individual voices play in shaping a complex society. Rather than simply reflecting reality, Ford has turned himself into a mirror for us to look at ourselves, not through his epic roles, but through the way he chooses to stand up, speak out, and act. He is a model of an artist who not only creates, but also dares to dialogue with the big issues of our time, from the intersection of popular culture and politics, to how we face inevitable changes in society. A new lesson that Ford leaves behind is how he inspires the younger generation, the ones who will inherit both the art and the social responsibility that he has built. In a 2020 interview with The Guardian, Ford once said, "I don't want the next generation to have to correct the mistakes that we can avoid today." While this quote is relevant to the environment, another area that Ford cares deeply about, it also applies to how he views the role of art and politics. Ford isn't just talking about the past or the present. He's looking to the future, where young people can learn to use their voices to create change, just as he has done through every role, every speech, and every small but meaningful action. Moreover, in an age where technology and social media are blurring the lines between truth and lies, Ford has become a symbol of steadfastness, not because he's perfect, but because he's always chosen to face reality with sincerity. He's not trying to be a real-life hero, but he's showing that ordinary people, famous or not, can make an impact if they dare to speak the truth and stand for what's right. In a world where platforms like X can amplify both positive and negative voices, Ford's lesson is a call to action. Use your voice responsibly, not to divide but to build bridges. Ultimately, Ford leaves us with an open question: if art can reflect society, and if politics can shape culture, what can we, the audience, the citizens, do to continue the story he started? He doesn't provide an answer, but he puts down his pen and hands it over to us. In a world of change, perhaps the most important thing Ford conveys is not a specific message, but a spirit, the spirit of someone who dares to think, dares to speak, and dares to act, not for fame, but because he believes in something bigger than himself. And next, let's follow some of the activities that Ford plans for 2025. One of Ford's biggest announcements in 2025 was his official entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross in Captain America: Brave New World, which is set to be released in February 2025. The role marks a notable career shift for Ford, as he replaces William Hurt, who passed away in 2022, as the stern general who transforms into the Red Hulk. A surprising detail that Ford revealed in an interview with the Wall Street Journal that he was unaware of when he signed on. Interestingly, Ford not only brings depth to a complex character, but also demonstrates his versatility in entering a superhero genre that is unfamiliar to him. In a recent interview with Variety, Ford shared, "I don't want to be stuck in one role. I want to try new things, and Marvel is a fun place to play." The role is not only an artistic move, but also a statement. Ford, despite being at an age when many people choose to retire, is still ready to face new challenges, continuing to break the stereotypes about age in the film industry. In addition to the big screen, Ford still maintains a presence on the small screen with two outstanding series, Shrinking on Apple TV Plus and 1923 on Paramount Plus. In the second season of Shrinking, 2024 to 2025, Ford continues to play Dr. Paul Rhodes, a veteran therapist with Parkinson's disease, delivering a performance that is both humorous and emotional. The series co-creator, Bill Lawrence, revealed in an interview with Vanity Fair that Ford is willing to experiment with comedic moments outside his comfort zone, such as misusing the term raw dogging for laughs, a testament to his flexibility in adapting to modern comedy styles. Meanwhile, the second season of 1923, scheduled to air in 2025, continues the story of the Dutton family, with Ford playing Jacob Dutton, a resilient man facing the harsh challenges of the times. These roles not only affirm Ford's acting talent, but also show that he is still an artist who is not afraid to experiment, willing to dialogue with audiences through stories with many layers of meanings, from the humor in Shrinking to the intensity of history in 1923. Outside of cinema, Ford continues to affirm his role as a passionate social and environmental activist. As the founding vice president of Conservation International since 1991, Ford has been a tireless advocate for environmental protection in 2025. He recently appeared at an event for the organization in California to call for action on climate change, stressing that we can no longer afford to procrastinate. The planet is not waiting for us. Ford has also used his platform to support environmental education initiatives for young people, continuing the aviation education program he led from 2004 to 2009. These efforts show another side of Ford. He is not just an artist, but also a global citizen who uses his fame to promote positive change, an action that resonates with the sense of responsibility he has expressed in his previous political statements. Ford has also been open about his desire to spend more time with his family and personal interests, such as flying, a longtime passion of his. "I want to take a step back, not to retire, but to slow down, to feel the things I've missed between movies," he told people in early 2025. Still, with projects like Thaddeus Ross and Thunderbolts due out in 2025 and future roles in the works, it's clear that Ford isn't ready to leave the spotlight entirely. These activities not only show his persistence in the arts, but also demonstrate how he continues to bridge the gap between art and life, from trying out new roles to using his voice to protect the planet and inspire the next generation. In the end, Ford leaves us all with an open question: if someone like him, with all his achievements and challenges, still chooses to stand up and act, what will we do with our own voices and opportunities? Perhaps, in this turbulent world, the most important thing Ford conveys is not an answer, but an invitation to continue the story, to dare to dream big, and to act, not for fame, but for what is truly worthwhile.